In this episode of The Tripod,
like a handful of artists, really, haven't like you've. It's mad
Yeah,
because you've
I've
done
really
so
nailed
much
the
that.
kind of singer-songwriter niche.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Sheeran, Capaldi, and Passenger.
Passenger work.
James
We
Bay.
haven't even touched on that. Like,
Yeah.
The recent work you were doing with Passenger blew my mind. Like, amazing.
welcome to The Tripod.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is a graphic designer by trade. He spent 5 years working in the field in both London and New York before breaking into the professional photography. He has since established himself as a prolific creative, having spent 2 years as personal photographer for Ed Sheeran. That's right, Ed Sheeran. Documenting the life and concerts of his Divide World Tour. As a result, he gained further experience in the music industry, shooting world-famous artists such as Lewis Capaldi, Anne-Marie, Snow Patrol, Zara Larson, James Bay, and many more. And if that's not all, he made several appearances as a guest judge on the KH Isolation Challenges and the Tripod All Ireland. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce to you our good friend, Zakary Walters. What is the story, Zach?
Sweet. Thanks for having me, boys.
Hey,
Thank
Zach,
you so
how's
much
it
for
going?
coming on.
That was some intro. I laughed like after the way it came, you were listing out all these high accolades that Zach has done, and then it's like if that's not all, he's also on the KH Isolation Challenge.
Save the
It seems
best
like
for
that
last.
tops the whole lot.
Of course.
I also love how you lifted my bio from my website.
I just completely stole it, and changed like 3 words.
Is that where you got it? Oh man,
Of course.
That's where prolific came from.
plagiarism.
Sure, look. Work smarter, isn't that what they say?
That's it.
Yeah.
Zach, thanks very much for coming on.
Oh, pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
We're absolutely chuffed to have you on. We were just saying before we came on the clean feed how we have not touched on this genre enough. And Kevin, you are responsible for that. So
Yeah.
come on, Kev. This is your
Well,
job.
I've tried, lads. I've been pushing for it. You know what I mean? But look, it's great. It's great to have you, Zach. And look, I said it to you a very long time ago that you were one of the first people we wanted to get on. Because like who doesn't want to hear from another deadly concert photographer? So, I suppose, look, Zach, we'll get straight into it, really, buddy. Like, tell us how it all started. Like, how in the intro I said obviously you're a graphic designer by trade. How does someone go from being a graphic designer to a concert photographer, and specifically, a concert photographer that goes on world tours? Like, how does it happen? Tell us all about Zach.
Well, do you know this answers to this question?
No.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, so I was a graphic designer. I studied at Falmouth University, and then I did that. Worked at a company called Design Bridge. I worked in their London office and then their New York office, and I did like very basic amateur photography. I had like an old film camera. Actually, I've got it. Like an old Olympus OM1, which I basically was that kind of like scene kid, indie sort of like loving film photography. And but before all that, I went to school with a guy called Ed Sheeran.
I'll go away.
That's my
So,
You were to school with him.
Ed's one of my really close mates and known him for years, been really good friends. And when he was touring the start of the Divide tour, he came through New York when I was working in New York, and then we just had lots of beers, and then that question arose like, oh, how about you come and do like photography a bit more on the tour? And obviously just drunken conversations led, that I thought would never aspire to anything, actually led to probably about 6 months later, I'd quit my job in New York, and I suddenly was on the road with one of my very, very good friends, and also like a few other friends that he had along the way that all went to school together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
was
right
your
place, right time.
That is 100%.
Was your first gig that you shot an Ed Sheeran gig then? With that?
Yeah. My first gig I ever shot was Ed playing the Perth Stadium in Australia to like 80,000 people.
Wow.
And I had a few friends that are like professional photographers, and I'd sort of question them about like what equipment I should get. And I thought when I first started with Ed as well, I thought it was going to be more like Instagram stuff, like behind the scenes, and less about the concept photography. But so I rocked up on my first day of shooting with a Fujifilm X100F fixed 35mm lens, thinking that in stadiums that would be okay. But quickly realised that's. I mean, it was great to like day in day out, like having that on me, and sort of like wherever I was, it was one of those cameras. It's amazing. The cut. I still go back to it occasionally, and I've still got it, and the colours on it are just insane. But yeah, I shot my first gig, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to cut it.
Yeah. But still, as you said, like as a pocket camera and something that you wanted to like use to document day-to-day life, it would be ideal for that. You know, you would only carry around your big 70-200 when you're trying to shoot behind the scenes stuff. But that is wild. And like, not only did you get to shoot someone like as prolific as Ed Sheeran for your first gig, but you were working with your best friend or one of your very good mates, like, you know. So that's also a big plus, like.
Yeah, definitely. Like the first year was much more like I was there on the tour, and that was sort of like my job to kind of keep me busy. But then it quickly came from like a hobby to like absolutely loving it, and then started to like my skill set started to get better, and I started to be able to, started to take better pictures that I was actually proud of. Like I sometimes look back at the first stuff, and you can, if you go onto my Instagram, I only started my Instagram that you guys follow when I started with Ed in Perth, and you can see the progression of 0 followers and a kind of a Fujifilm to not only like better equipment, but also like a more like in-depth knowledge, and here we are today. And you know, not only have I shot with Ed, but also shot with other artists as well, and you know, it's
incredible.
Absolutely
Incredible.
And like the thing is, like I was looking back at, because you know you were one of the first concert photographers that I ever followed, because I'm a self-confessed Cheerio, as they're called.
Yeah, you've told me before.
I mean, I've been to see I've like 4 times, so obviously not a patch on you, but like you, like before I even knew really concert photography was a thing, I was like a fan of your work, but I only knew it through Ed, if that made sense, like through his social media.
That's pretty much 90% of my following, I think.
Look, I mean, I'm not surprised, because like that work is phenomenal, you know. Like, and I remember you like to use it like starburst filters. Do you use them at the odd time?
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing that, going like, how does this? Before I kind of had any knowledge of like anything really, I was just like, that is so cool.
Well, I remember seeing some shooters start using it, and I was like, how are they doing that? And then worked out that it's literally a really, really cheap filter that you can buy on Amazon in sets, and it's just like costs like a tenner, and it's like, really adds like some dynamism to the photos and stuff. So
really, I've never heard of that. That's wild. So it's just a filter. So you're shooting, if you want to get this effect, you're just shooting with a filter during your gig, and it just gives this starburst effect.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's crazy. You were there probably thinking, they're never dialing down the aperture to f/22 to try and get it. Like, they would be able to do that at a concert, like, you know. That's crazy. You're speaking.
It's quite funny when when people like, because sometimes I get quite a few messages on Instagram like, like any advice on getting into the industry, and I always feel really bad when I say like, oh yeah, we were just like pals at school.
I mean, look, that's a solid way of doing it, though. In fairness, just befriend someone that you know is talented and hope for the best.
Yeah, literally. So, like,
you know,
if school kids are like, I'm a teacher, so if my students are listening, pick out that really talented guy or girl at school and get very good friends with them, because you never know what may happen. Do you know? Zach, you were speaking.
Can I ask? Oh, sorry, Sean.
It's okay, Gabe. I'll get my point. No, go on, work away.
But because obviously, just touching on what you said, like obviously because you've known him since school, like was it always destined to be this way? Do you think, Fred? Like, I mean, was he always kind of?
Yeah, he always had that.
That's a good question, actually.
He always had that twinkle in his eye, and like his first, you know, we used to gig. I was in a band, and we used to like gig together, and I mean,
with Ed.
I look back. Yeah. So we used to like support each other on like little local like pubs and things like that, and it was he was always the one that was like, there's something there, like, and because he was always using the loop pedal from like age, you know, must have been like before he was 16. Like, I met him when I was like 15, so I went to a different school in the local area, and then I joined the school that Ed went to, Thomas Mills, in sixth form. So then, but because we were kind of on the gigging circuit together, we kind of knew each other through that. And yeah, there was always like a thing where it's like, he could pop, and then he just had the most insane work ethic and determination to get in there. And then I remember the first time it was The City got released, which was
great tune.
Might have been on like SBTV or something, but I remember watching that or listening to that, and I was like, oh yeah, like Ed's like seriously on something here and sounds sick. And and then like fast forward 15 years and I'm supporting him on the biggest tour of the world. So
class.
That's so
Absolutely
cool. That's
class.
such like not only that's such a good story in terms of like you support each other as musicians, and now you're still supporting each other. I mean, it must
I
be
wouldn't
something.
class myself as a musician.
Oh well,
I
if you
was the bassist. I was the bassist, and my guitarist Fred definitely wrote 100% of the songs, and I just kind of played along. So
look, you can play an instrument, you're a musician. It's as simple as that. It must be something to do with concert photographers and being able to play music, because Kev is an avid musician.
That's
as
why
well.
I do concert photography, because I'm a failed musician. So it's like I couldn't get on stage, so I was just close to it as I can.
Exactly. I wanted that touring lifestyle without actually having any kind of musical talent. So
I still want the touring lifestyle on stage, but I know it's not going to happen. So I'll settle for, being as close to the stage as possible, or on stage ideally.
100%. I love music, and I love going to gigs as well, and I play a bit of music myself, but the adrenaline at gigs, even as a fan, is insane, especially if you're at a gig with like someone you really, really like. So I can imagine, Zach, you're there shooting that gig. Like I'm a landscape photographer, so I get a buzz off of like a cool sky or cool weather when I'm out in the elements. I assume you're feeding off all that adrenaline from the crowd while you're shooting a gig and trying to get those shots. I mean, what are you looking out for when you're there shooting, like, let's say during a live gig, not behind the scenes, just live gig, Ed's on stage? What are you going for?
Well, yeah, that's a really interesting point. And like some people ask me like, oh, what's it like shooting the same gig, same production, like, over and over again? But it honestly feels different every single time. Like even like the same stadium with the same, but like night two of night, four run. And it's the crowd just like influence how they're so hyped that you kind of, I tend to look for the, like, not even shoot Ed, like to try and capture the essence and tell that story of that evening. I tend to like just go in the crowd or like take pictures from the pit of the crowd, and you kind of really get the sense of the show being different every time. And that's why, you see these super fans at the front of like Ed and also Lewis, like they go to like gig after gig after gig after gig, and from a normal bystander that must be like feel like slightly weird, but then after shooting the same gig like 10 times, you kind of get it. Like it feels different, even if it's the same place and you're seeing them over and over again. Like I've never done that with an artist that I've like gone to see. Kevin, I don't know if you have.
I have.
He definitely has.
I've done it quite a few times.
But it definitely makes you like. It definitely makes you like. Yeah, you're like, oh, I get it. I get it. Like it's a different. Yeah, it's a different vibe every night. Yeah. It's quite cool.
That's exactly it.
I saw Ed in Galway and I saw Ed in Dublin, like kind of back to back, and they were completely different gigs. Like they were totally different, even though it was the same set. And like you were at both of them, obviously, because I saw them. But like it was a completely different vibe and completely different everything about them. So I do get that. I get that. That's brilliant.
And some of the best, while we're talking about like the crowd, like some of the best shots at a gig are often when you've captured the crowd along with the musician, because you're capturing their reactions, you're freezing that action of like, there could be a girl crying, there could be someone screaming, and then you see the artist, and it gives it ties everything in and gives a context, which is why I assume that you're saying you'll be focusing on the crowd as well as it's important to focus on solely on the musician. So like in terms of your workflow then, Zach, after the gig, is there a quick turnaround in terms of like, do you have like magazines that you have to send those images to? Are they straight away for social media? How does it work when you finish shooting?
It completely differs gig to gig. Generally when we're in the UK and Ireland, it's a lot quicker turnaround because there's press releases and to get to newspapers. And normally after a show in UK, for instance, I'll have a 1 a.m. like deadline. And yeah, sometimes it's like really like intense, like going through the images and trying to like
1 a.m. that night.
Yeah.
As in, so you're probably like, that's not even 2 hours after the gig. The gig finished up at like 11.
So like halfway in the set, I'll put an SD card into my computer and I'll get it like basically ticking over to get it all loaded up. So then I can like whiz through all the photos for that half the set first while the other one's loading, and then basically select like, I think it's like 10 that you need for the press releases. So it's not many, like, and then I'll basically just like, file them, make sure Ed's happy, and then file them off. And then as like I started working more and more with Ed, that kind of he would trust me. He kind of like would kind of glance at them or not even look at them. He'd be like, he kind of trusts me to like know like what to show, and you know, I know his good side.
And what's the culling process like? I mean, like, would you kind of know before you even sit down to edit them? Like, okay, I want to maybe use a song or a shot from like Bloodstream today, or you know, like, would you, because you obviously know the set like inside out, so would you know maybe what you're feeling already, or would you literally take your time to go through every shot?
Nah, so you kind of like, I tried it a few different ways as well, because I was trying to like speed up my workflow, and I tried it once where as I was going, because I think when you take a photo when you're like shooting live, you know, like there's this kind of, you're like, right, oh no, that was like perfect light, he was stood in the right place, the crowd was lit up, like, okay, I know. And then what I tried to do once, which didn't really work, is then I had notes on my phone, and I'd be like, I'd write down the kind of like, the picture number, and I'd be like, okay, save that for later. But actually, it slowed me down. Like, ended up missing a couple of like key moments, and I was like, okay, this doesn't work. So I basically just, I go, if I've got that kind of like 2 hour deadline, I'll whiz through things, but I know where, weirdly, I know where the 10 images I want are. There might be like, say, I'll know where 8 of them are, and then 2 of them are like, oh wow, like, I didn't realize I quite captured it then, or so it really differs show to show. But I remember once I was in Manchester and we were staying out of town, and I was in the car out away from the gig, and I was like going through all the images, and then got to the house we were staying in, and there was no like there was no internet, and like I was like, I need to, I've got this press release that I need to send out by 1 a.m. and I ended up editing and then walking up the hill to get phone reception on my phone to then tether to then send this thing out. And it still ended up being like an hour late, and I was like, really,
oh god,
that sounds like something that would happen.
These things can happen. It sounds like Sean just getting ready for a podcast half the time.
My internet woes are just shocking. Out of interest, Zach, what do you obviously edit on a laptop when you're on the go like that? Yeah. So what laptop are you processing on?
So I've got a MacBook Pro. I think it's like 2 years old, but I got it like fully top spec'd out like 2 years ago. So it handles pretty well, and also like because I do design freelance as well from my previous life. It kind of handles like huge files that I can do anything on it really. But I've heard about the new chip MacBooks. My friend just got one, and he was saying like it's nuts what it can do.
They're meant to be insane. Insane, and the power, I love the Mac workflow. I love how streamlined it is. I love AirDrop. I love all that. Now I edit mainly on a PC because I built my own PC. But if I had the money, I would buy a spec'd out MacBook Pro laptop as well. Cause it's just so versatile. It's just so cool, especially those new Mac chips. That's interesting. No, I'm a really tech nerd, so I love finding out what people edit their photos on and what are they using in their workflows and stuff. That's really cool.
Well, we're on the topic, Zach. What do you shoot with for our listeners? Because I'm sure, I know what the crack is, but let everyone know what you're shooting with at the moment, and kind of what's your go-to.
Oh, so I'm a Sony man. I think I used to, at uni, I had a Canon 350D, and then obviously, like I said, I bought Fujifilm from a friend's recommendation, which obviously didn't cut it. And then the videographer Nick Mins on Ed's tour also went to school together. But he's
Nick was in school, which is too.
Yeah.
That's cute. That's lovely.
Nick was Ed's videographer, and Nick shot on Sony, and I don't think it was copying, but it was like, right, if I get Sony, and then I can like borrow the lens from you and
Makes
stuff.
total sense.
And so the crowd shots that we did for the Divide tour, Ed used to take them on his phone, like just before the encore. He would like, he had like I think it was like an iPhone like 5E, you know, one of those really bright coloured ones. And Ed had it in his
the 5C.
the 5C, that's it.
Yeah,
Trev, the guitar tech, would come up when he was like gave Ed his new guitar, like would give Ed the phone for his pocket, and then so for the Instagram, the crowd shots used to be just Ed taking it on a phone just with the crowd. And then one of the things I like said when I first started, I was like, well, if we're going to do those crowd shots again, how about you're in them with the crowd? And then it feels like much more like, you know, you're there together. And I think the fans will love that a lot more. And so we started doing that. But that was started shooting on, Nick had I think it was like a 10 to 14 like half frame wide, but it was like, I did it on that, and I didn't buy my wide angle for like another, I don't know, like 8 months. So I would meet Nick in the pit, and Nick would give me his wide angle, because at this point I still hadn't like bought the right kit. And then there was a couple of gigs where Nick obviously knew that he had time to like, wherever he was shooting, he had time to get back to give it to me, but there was a few like squeaky bum moments where I was like, fuck, like, I'm gonna miss this shot. I'm gonna have to take it on like a 24-17. I'm not gonna get all the crowd in, and then
what was it like, Zach, when you first walked out to take like that, let's say that first shot? Because obviously, you know, I'd imagine it can be quite a strange feeling walking out in front of like
electric.
70,000 people.
Yeah, my I like, it sounds really weird, but my heart like was absolutely, I remember being on the side in Perth and being like, oh, I'm about to take this photo. And I think the first couple, I didn't know what settings, because I didn't know how bright the crowd were going to lit up. And I think I actually clicked onto auto just because I was so nervous.
Exclusive, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go.
This is what
but after a while, I figured out exactly the settings, because obviously the lighting's the same from the stage, and I actually have the camera setting for the crowd shots tattooed on me.
You do not, do you?
That's so cool.
That is amazing.
It's one way of not forgetting, anyway. That's for sure.
Well,
is it on your wrist?
It was an after. It was basically one of the last gigs. There was like a tattoo artist backstage, and I'd been thinking a while, like I wanted to get another tattoo to like remember the 2 years of the Divide tour, but I didn't want to get like a Divide symbol. I didn't want anyone to know what it was, so I basically got the camera settings for that crowd shot, but it's mirrored, so it literally looks like gobbledygook, and it's on the back of my arm. And,
man, that is class. That is absolutely class.
What are the settings? Which I have to ask. I want to know.
Do you know what? I don't even know. I do. It's 1/160, f2.8, and then ISO 1000. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
That's so cool.
I'll take note of that for the first time I go on tour.
Yeah. That's such a good idea, though. Oh, man.
But it was one of those like religious things that, like, as Ed Page You Need Me, like I would get ready and I'd like set the camera up, and it just made like, it was just one of those things that was just like ingrained. Like I've now been not touring with Ed for like over nearly 18 months. So that number, even though it's tattooed on me.
That's so cool.
It was one of those things. It was like amazing. Yeah, it was an amazing way to remember like such a cool, thing to be doing.
Absolutely, man.
Like my friends, basically.
100%.
And you're saying obviously it's been like 2 years since the Ed tour finished. Like, how important was it for you to when that finishes, then kind of branch out and go find more artists to work with? I'd imagine there was quite a few almost knocking on your door and queuing up. I mean, because
Yeah, I mean, and we toured. Lewis supported us for Leeds and Ipswich, so I kind of met that kind of camp and kind of felt like I hit it off quite well with them. And I mean, it was quite obvious what I was trying to do. Like Ed's tour finished at the end of August, and they'd joined at the start. And, I think it was pretty obvious what I was trying to do. But
you were buying Lewis beers left, right, and centre.
I was out in bars with him all night. but yeah, no, I instantly hit it off with those guys, and then but it was really important for me to go from Ed giving me that opportunity to shoot him on his tour, and then like I love my old job. I love the old company I used to work for. I've been freelancing with them today, Designbridge, and they taught me a lot about like creative and medium. But it's a different medium. Like it's telling a story and telling a really concise but enthralling story to the consumers of designing packaging, and then it's a different medium with photography. It's telling the story of that night, and it's a lot more instant, and it's a lot more kind of right then and there, which I quite liked. Like some of the projects that would go on for longer, I would, it would just be like, oh, it's still working, still doing this. But then with shooting a gig, it's literally like, right, you're in it, you got to do it, you got to tell the story of that night, and then you're out, and then you're on to the next night and telling the story of that night. So it's quite, even though they're really different, it's Designbridge definitely working for them that taught me a lot.
Yeah. It's almost like your commercial work with Designbridge stuff would be a lot more scripted, and then when you're out shooting at your gigs, it's just, as you say, it's in the moment, it's there, and it almost makes you a sharper photographer, because not only do you have to juggle so many different things, settings, composition, everything, you also have to think about, right, what sort of a story am I putting together here, and what moments do I have to capture, and like that's something, as a landscape photographer, my workflow is quite slow. I have a lot of time to plan, a lot of time, and like I shot a wedding last week, and I came home and I was wrecked. I said to Ronan, I was like, man, it's like, just, you have so many things you're trying to see juggling in your head, capturing moments, thinking of what to do next, settings, So I've massive respect for photographers like yourself and kind of photographers and Kevin who have that ability to capture something so instant. That's gone in the flash of a second, like.
Yeah, and that's definitely something to point out, is that wedding photography is definitely harder than anything I've done. Because
hard.
I shot my first wedding last year. So one of Ed's promoters, he was getting married, and he basically asked me and Nick to like shoot and like do videos and stuff for his wedding. And like, even though he's like, class him as a friend, like it was still so intense because missing a gig, that there's another one the next day. And if you see something cool, you're like, do you know what? If I get in that angle at that point of the song and catch the lights here with the crowd, then that's going to look really cool. Yes. Whereas a wedding is like, if I miss this or if I fuck up, like this is so bad. So I remember being like so stressed and like that shooting that wedding. And I mean, I'd love to do it. I'd love to do some more, but it definitely is. Big up to all the concert. Big up for all the wedding photographers out there, because it's definitely a lot more stressful than what I do.
100%, and I would love to do
and Sean
more as well.
actually shot Ronan's wedding.
Yeah.
So the other Sean was video and I was the photographer. So that's kind of cute.
I've done.
Zach, you can do my wedding. It's official. It's confirmed.
Okay. We'll stop when you give up and afford him.
Mates rates. Grand.
I do more so video at weddings than photo, but yeah, like it's just, if you miss this moment, it's gone. But at the same time, I got a couple of images I got such a good buzz off them. It was one of those candid images where no one's looking at the camera and you just capture that moment. I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that more. But yeah, 100%, if you missed that, it's gone. Missed that first kiss, you're like, sorry, just rewind there, okay? Yeah. Do it again. Yeah. Zach, you've spoken about your workflow, you've spoken about your gear. What's next? I know we're in the middle of a global pandemic and gigs are not really, happening at the moment. Kevin is going to start crying again. Kevin always points this out.
I get emotional.
Yeah, he gets very emotional. What are your hopes and goals for 2021?
Well, I hope to be back on the road. That's for sure. Number one. I mean, there's been really, I've really relished. I haven't been directly affected by COVID or anything, but it's actually been a really nice time from my, perspective. I'd like time to switch off and see friends and see loved ones. And my girlfriend's definitely a lot happier that I'm not touring with Lewis all of 2020. So I've definitely taken a step back, and it's been really nice to see. But 2021, I really hope that I'm back on the road and Also got a few other projects in the pipeline. I kind of want to mix up everything that I've been doing, like my old job doing like FMCG design, and I want to kind of start my own brand.
Nice.
Like in the drinks industry, which is which is
lovely.
is happening. It's happening. But
Really?
it's happening slowly. Yeah.
That's very
exclusive,
cool.
lads. We're laughing here.
I know. We're getting
You
so many
did
exclusives.
keep busy during kind of the pandemic because you were helping out with the masks and everything, weren't you, for the NHS? Is that right?
Yeah. So my friend Hal, him and he works for a company called Create 180, and someone's trying to call me. But wait a minute.
If it's Ed, you're allowed answer.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is.
Put him on.
Oh no! I've now the Zoom has ended. What do I do? I'll just do it without Zoom.
Just click on the link. You can come back in through the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be grand.
You can do without it if you want. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the same.
I'm clicking.
And while we wait, Kevin is going to hum soothing tones into the clean.
Do you know what I was gonna do, Zach? I was planning on dropping about 27 Ed Sheeran puns throughout the episode and see if you noticed, but I decided against it.
Let me in. It says the meeting host will let me in soon.
Oh, that's Ronan.
Yeah, that's Ronan, so that's not
by
possible.
the way, if our listeners
yeah,
haven't
Ronan
noticed
is
yet-
gone. We should have said
to
that.
mention that.
I know. I was going to mention it at the start, but you launched into the first question. I was like, "Oh, here, I'm just
about
going to." Kevin's actually sticking to the plan, so I'm not going to interrupt this.
Oh, nice.
What's rare is wonderful.
Right,
Ronan is.
meeting. I'm left. We're doing this without video.
Okay.
Ronan, yeah, it's all good.
All
It's,
right. Yeah, it's
we're not
grand.
recording video now, so it's all good, Zach.
Yeah.
Ronan,
What
for
was
our
I saying
listeners, Ronan has been doing daddy duties, so he may pop in there in a while, but do you know what? It's grand without him, isn't it?
Yeah, it's grand. He'd have just made it awkward. Now when he joked.
Yeah.
I can say that
Zach,
'cause he's not here.
you said something there that every single guest we've had on has said it's what everyone around has resonated with the pandemic. Yes, it has been terrible and it has been very tough, but it allowed everyone to slow down and just take a minute to get out of that rat race that is life, you know, and just take everything in. And it actually puts so many things into perspective, like, hasn't it? I mean, 2020 is a year that's taught us lessons of anything, you know.
I'm really looking forward to 2020 being over. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
same, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the back of it.
Oh, stop. And obviously you're looking to get back on the road in 2021, and Kevin is obviously looking to try and get back in shooting gigs. Zach, did you ever shoot landscapes by any chance?
No, I did a little bit while I was on the road. We'd have like a few days off here and there, and I'd always take the camera away, and like some of like, I don't know what's going on with my phone. My phone's like blowing up right now.
You know
They
you're
must
on the
have heard you're on
podcast.
the tripod. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd always have a phone, and it's definitely not like an expertise of mine, but like definitely like got a bit more into it as time went on, especially when I got like more kit and kind of I also like more, you know, I kind of developed my skills and be like, okay, well, what does this look like if I use this here and without shooting someone on stage and bits like that. So
Yeah. It must be cool to diversify a bit. Your kit on stage, before we kind of go into our quick fire round, before we finish off this interview, just so you have Sony, your cameras are Sony. Are you kind of the 24-70, 70-200, or do you have a couple of primes, or?
Yeah, so I've got two bodies now. I've got an R3, which was my kind of like go-to body, and then Sony very nicely lent me one of their new R4s.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great, by the way. If anyone's looking to upgrade, then they should definitely get the A7 R4.
Yeah, we're Nikon guys. So.
We're all Nikon shooters. Yeah.
We're all Nikon shooters, yeah. Go on, carry on.
But it's okay. We've no
We've no prejudice against Sony, so yeah.
It sounds like you do.
No. It's the C word we don't normally allow on the podcast, Zach.
That's fine.
Oh, what
Fine
are you
with me. So yeah, I've got two bodies, and then I have 24-70, which is pretty much on my R3 the whole time, and then I kind of rotate. I've got a 70-200, and then I've got a 14mm Samyang, which is like an amazing. If anyone wants like a kind of quite low budget wide angle lens for the EF mount. Like it's incredible. It's 2.8. So like that's the lens I use for the crowd shots. Is that Samyang?
Really
14 mil? Yeah.
That's
really
interesting, because I have seen. I'm looking for a lens for astrophotography, so for the Milky Way and stuff, and it obviously has to be a fast lens. And a lot of Nikon fast glasses are quite expensive, but I've seen reports or reviews for that, for those Samyang lenses and those Ronan lenses, and they're quite good for such a lens that'll probably cost maybe 300 or 400 euros.
Yeah, I think it was 400. Yeah, 400.
Yeah,
but yes, it's amazing. I know Sony have now bought out full frame 16 to 35, but actually we used it on a shoot last week. It's incredible, but it's a little bit above budget for chucking in. Yeah, I will have one in the future, but it definitely have to save up for that.
I imagine your gear must be gets a rough time as well. Do you know,
yeah, a little bit. I've got a Pelly, so everything's in the Pelly.
Yeah.
And then the other lens I have, which is amazing, is the 50mm 1.8 prime, and it's like Sony's cheap prime lens. It's like £180, I think it's actually my favorite lens that I own. I think it's incredible, the image that it produces, and like a couple of my friends, like amateur photographers, have like recently got like Sony bodies, and they've been like, oh, what lens should I get? And I always say, get that 50mm prime, because it's incredible. I know they do like a Zeiss version of it, which is more expensive, but which I haven't actually tested. But the normal Sony ones which is like £180. It's like, honestly, it's the best bang for your buck for sure.
Yeah, I love my 50mm. It's a beautiful lens. Like it just does beautiful things.
Every camera manufacturer has a nifty 50, don't they? Like it's the exact same. I had it on the other day, my 50mm f1.8, and got some beautiful kind of shots with it. Like so, and they're so cheap, as you said. Again, I think I bought this lens for €120. Like, right, yeah. And it's absolute. Do you know what I mean? Like, where are you going? Brilliant.
Zach,
so, Kev,
before we're gonna jump into the quick fire round in a few minutes. I'm enjoying this way too much.
Yeah,
no, it's just
so
something
good. There's no pressure about stopping. Like we can I mean, I need to get another beer from the fridge, but we can keep going if you want.
No, just one of the listeners to the podcast. I put up a story on Instagram just saying, look, we have a concert photographer coming on, but one of them wanted to know where or what's the best city that you were on or that you were in on tour. So like, what's the best city you visited on tour?
For visiting or for shooting?
Both. Let's go with both.
For visiting, I loved Japan. It was the best place I think I went to on the tour. And because of the tour, I'd never been, before I got my job in New York, I'd never been out of Europe. Like I'd never really traveled. And then, to go to somewhere like Tokyo, which is so culturally different, but so amazing. Like the people there are just like, you'd be like lost in the tube. If you were lost in the tube in London and like with a tube map out, everyone would just be walking past you. But in Tokyo, like businessmen come up to you saying like, where are you trying to get to? Like it's just a different world, amazing food, amazing people and amazing scenery. And so Tokyo, I think that's the place that I've been like craving to go back to.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. Have you guys been?
That shot you have of Tokyo
never.
Of Ed is one of my favorite shots of yours.
Thank you very much.
It's phenomenal. Like it's so good. And that has the lens flare on it as well, doesn't it? I'm fairly sure.
Yeah. And that shot, I've got a few different places around the world, and it's when. Actually, is it Uni B? Yeah, it's in Uni B when he like jumps down to like be as close to the crowd. And I've got it a few times, but it's definitely the Tokyo one, which was, the most. Yeah, that picture is like one of my favorites. And also want something to say about the Japanese like fans is that they're like insanely polite. Like they're as soon as there's like a gap, they'll end of a song, they clap. And then it's silence, and so it takes a little weird getting used to, because you're like, oh, are they enjoying it? But they're absolutely loving it. Whereas like you fast forward to like Galway, and you see Kevin in the front and just going absolutely mental, like downing 3 pints.
It's so true.
It's not even, you're not even wrong. Like, that's factual information.
Yeah, that's the Irish. Like, when we're excited, we just can't shut up. Like, we just keep going. Oh no, I've never been to Japan.
My favourite place to shoot, I think, is either Ireland. Actually, Ireland's up there. Maybe like, but I think just beats the fans to Ireland is South America, because they really know how to go absolutely wild.
Really, that's
like,
interesting.
They're like so intensely loud. Like, I used to I would have like earplugs in like occasionally, and I remember having them in Sao Paulo, South America, and being like, I couldn't even work out if I had them in, and I actually took them out, and I was like deafening, and all the people that were working on the thing all had like, you know, in-ear monitors and stuff, and they were like all covering, like the crowds were like insanely loud. It was mental.
That's class. So Sao Paulo would be one of the, like, let's say your South American choice, because we'll give you one for each continent if you want. Like, so it's it's grand.
I think those two. Oh, and then for landscape, Iceland was incredible. Like, I ended staying there for like a week after we finished, and me and my friend hired a car, and we just went and like drove down different places and shot different like landscapes and waterfalls, and so I think scenery wise, Iceland wins, and then place wise, city wise, Tokyo, and then people fans is kind of South America, but quickly followed up by the Irish, because they really
all right, we'll take that.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. There's a reason Iceland is thronged with landscape photographers now. It's not cliche. It is absolutely stunning, and you have to see it with your own eyes to actually just appreciate it.
Doesn't feel real. You're walking around and driving around, and you just pull into like a random lay-by, and you're like, what is this?
It's like you're on another planet.
Yeah.
I actually wish that when I was in Iceland, it was snow, and it was winter time, so snow and ice, and I actually would prefer to see it when there was no snow there, because I think it's even more dramatic, like the landscape, you know.
So I went in the summer, so I'm the opposite to you. I want to see the ice, and you want to be.
I want to see the midnight sun. I want to see that, like, it's, you know, it's nice in the winter, but a lot of time it's just like a white blanket, you know, and you can't really distinguish much. But in the summer, I imagine like the landscape is just, it's transformed. There's so many, because it's such a volcanic landscape, like, you know, you've got so many different mountains, textures, rivers, everything. I'd say it's incredible.
Well, let's have a trip. Let's have a tripod trip.
Here we go.
Oh my goodness.
Here we go. Kev, did you hear that?
When I was in Iceland, though, I got a speeding ticket. If you go, do not speed, because it's not cheap. Yeah.
Well, I actually wasn't. I was driving. I rented a Jeep, and it was so icy. I actually could not speed, or I would have killed myself driving. Do you know, there was lorries passing me out, fishtailing up the road, and it was in a snowstorm, and I was like, this is just wild. Especially when you're on the other side of the road. Do you know, they drive on the opposite side of the road. But go on, tell us how you got caught speeding, and what were the consequences?
I just, a couple of months later, I just got a picture of my ugly mug sat in the front of my car that I,
really.
And then I tried. I was just like, and then I googled being like, do I have to pay this? And then it was like, if you don't pay, then they won't let you back into Iceland. And I was like, Iceland's way too beautiful not to be able to go back there again. Like, I'm just going to pay the fine.
I think
it was upwards of like over £300.
Wow!
No way.
That is the one thing with Iceland. It's an expensive country. Like, did you go drinking over there?
Yeah, but we went drinking, like, we obviously at the stadium we had like after show drinks, and then we went out like a couple of nights, but it was like, it's like 10 quid a beer.
Oh, so expensive.
Like,
so dear.
So.
We went out and we had like dinner, and we had 3 pints each, and it came to like nearly 200 quid. I was like, wow, this is, you wouldn't be going on a bender in Iceland anyway, that's for sure. I suppose it's that you're not there to go
unless you're preloaded though before you go.
Preloaded, yeah,
that's it.
Zach, this is
just a quick one there. Do you have any art? I mean, because obviously, like, it's very strange to say this, but like you're still quite, you've only worked with like a handful of artists, really, haven't? Like it's mad because you've
I've
done
really
so
nailed
much
the kind of singer-songwriter niche.
Yeah.
Sheeran, Capaldi, and Passenger. So yeah,
Passenger work.
James
We haven't
Bay.
even touched on that. Like, the recent work you were doing with Passenger blew my mind. Like, amazing.
Yeah, that was like
stunning.
I think also that Passenger job was some of the first I'd done. I'd done bits and pieces with Lewis, but mainly video stuff. Like in lockdown, doing some videos for like the Jingle Ball, which is tonight. So me and Nick, we like shot, produced, and directed all that. And which I think it's tonight actually, the Jingle Ball, which goes live, which is Lewis dressed as Santa, singing, doing a Christmas cover, and then doing some songs. But also like part of my vision was like, I want a snow machine, and they were like, well, we don't have budget for a snow machine. I was like, no, I don't want a good snow machine. I want like a really bad snow machine because I think it fits with Lewis dressed as Santa. And then there was like a point in the shoot where I was like, oh yeah, we're not going to rig the snow machines. And I was like, they're here, like let's rig them. And then whoever sees I Heart Jingle Ball tonight will see the snow machines, but they're just as bad as I wanted them to be. Don't anyone look at it and go, oh, they look a bit rubbish. That's exactly what I was after.
That's a good way to put it.
So who's next on your list? And obviously, look, you're going to ideally finish the tour with Lewis and continue to work with himself. But is there anyone kind of, if you could send out your portfolio and say, hey, I'm Zach, I'm coming on tour with you. Who's that artist? Who would be the next kind of dream?
Oh, there's a few. I think but also I think it's important to say that I think for my, I don't think I want to do this forever. I think that's I'm really hoping that Lewis is going to be going out next year and going out with him, and there's a few artists that I'd love to work for, but I think I'm trying to create a bigger thing where I'm not away from home like 24/7.
Yeah,
and
that's true. It must be. That's actually a really good point, and something that I don't think is touched on enough. It must be take its toll on your personal life in terms of your family life and stuff. It does it because you're away for so long.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I love being away, but don't get me wrong, I also love being at home, and it takes getting used to, and also like something that I think it was watching I watched the Shawn Mendes Netflix documentary about his last 2 years, and there was a thing in that about like anxiety, and obviously like I'm not the artist, but people working on tours, they actually going home is actually the anxious bit. It's not actually going to work. Work's the easy bit, and I think when touring becomes your life so much so that it actually is you feel anxious coming home rather than going away. I think that's when you start being like, oh yeah, I should probably be at home a bit long. More.
Wow, that's crazy. It's like the
touring. I'm hoping 2021 I'm going to be gone the whole year.
In saying that, I want to leave for a whole year. So, but no, I'd say it is odd when you come back from a tour, because you're kind of like you've been on the go, literally on the go for, in the case of the Divide tour, 2 years, and then it was just like poof, stop. Like there's an end date. Yeah. The tour is ended, and then you're just.
I still remember that last gig in Ipswich, like it was yesterday. It was so like filled with joy and happiness and emotion that it was mental. I remember Ed coming off stage and like we're all in his dressing room, and it was just like, because not only like does everyone that works for Ed is Ed's very loyal, and a lot of people that have been working on that tour have been working with Ed from day dot. So not only have you got that, but it was at the end of this mammoth, like the biggest highest grossing tour of all time.
It is officially the highest grossing tour of all time, isn't it?
And
how many dates were there? Do you remember off? I know it's probably like a very difficult question, but there was a lot.
Was it like nearly 300? I don't know. Well, I think it was like 100 a year, wasn't it? For 3 years.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I remember like coming off that, and it like I still remember like it was yesterday that sitting in the dressing room being like, I can't believe that's over. I can't believe it's over. And obviously we partied the night away, but it was crazy. And then even like being with Lewis for like, I started with Lewis in November 19, and then until basically we locked down in March. But that was like 5 months of pretty much solid touring with him and his crew, and they're all such a fucking nice bunch of guys. Like definitely took me a little while because they're pretty much all Scottish apart from me and then the drummer Freddie. And so I remember being on the tour bus the first night and being like, I don't understand anything what anyone's saying. And I was just like, I'm just, yeah. And then drinking loads of Buckfast and then waking up in the morning being like,
dying. That's actually what it would be
class.
like if you were on tour with like where I'm from is quite a strong accent. So if there was like a bus full of me, you probably struggle to understand what we're saying as well. It's like when you're speaking to like different people who aren't from the same area as you talk differently. But like when you're amongst your own, you just speak gibberish, and because you understand each other's mumbling, like, so that's what it must have been like.
Yeah, especially after a few drinks inside people. Like if you were just talking to a couple of your old schoolmates and your family right now, I'd probably struggle to understand you as well. But
it's crazy.
Maybe if I got a really Suffolk accent out, then you'd struggle to get that.
Possibly, but people say my accent's really strong and it's hard to understand. But I think I'm getting there. That's wild. Is it hard to come down from, like, have you a process of like coming down off of a tour, or coming down off of a gig? Like, do you know what I mean? I imagine you'd be buzzing after it for days. Like, let's say you're returning home. Let's say the tour is finished. It's time for Zach to head home. How do you come down after that?
Well, when you come home, then you're seeing, well, pre-COVID, you're seeing, friends and families and loved ones, and then you're I think the longest I was ever away for was like maybe 4 months. So it wasn't like, we weren't away for like super, super long. So like, but it was just like, go down the pub with all your mates and, go and, spend some quality time with the lady, etc.
Has to be done.
I think it doesn't feel like an end. And also, well, before COVID, and even when COVID hit, like we paused. It was Aberdeen, that last show in Aberdeen, about like a week before lockdown came in Scotland, and it was almost like, we're gonna go home for 3 weeks and then we'll be back on the road. Like no one on the road felt like we were gonna be gone for like that long. I remember being at Wembley like a week before the Aberdeen last show, and everyone was like, are we is it doing? Are we doing it? Like, are we not doing it? And everyone was like in the production office, like watching the live TV, and it was like, it felt like, it was super, super weird to be involved in that.
Super strange. Yeah, we're the same. It's like school's closed down. It's like, it'll only be for a week or two, like, Yeah. And here we are.
Sure. I remember I was planning on like meeting Zach at the Lewis Capaldi gig, because I was supposed to have shot Lewis in November. I think it was November last year in Dublin, wasn't it? Yeah. And like MCD only the next day told me that I had the pass for the night before, which was just a bit of a clerical error, let's say. Look, they're good to me, but it was very upsetting. Like it's a tough one to take. But like we had plans to be going to Malahide in like last July, which seems weird talking about it now, but like back then even it was like, sure, it's only March, like there's so many gigs in the summer, it'll be fine. Like the night of our lockdown, I was due to be shooting The Who, and obviously that was cancelled, but I was like, look, I'll miss a couple of gigs. We have the summer, we have festival season, we'll be fine. And it was strange.
And then it was that point where like Glastonbury got cancelled and everyone was like, oh my god, Glastonbury's gonna get cancelled. And I was like, if you look back at that now, it's sort of like, of course it was. Like, I think everyone was filled with this kind of like genuine optimism that everything was going to be fine, and it really, really wasn't fine.
That's the thing. When you look back now, where like they're not even allowing, like in Ireland, they don't even allow more than 25 people at a wedding, and it's like, that's okay, that's normal. We're in COVID. Back before Glastonbury, you're like, it's crazy they're cancelling it. Festival where like thousands and thousands of people are going to be there. Like, it's fine.
I reckon it makes it easier shooting a wedding of 25 people, or is it harder? Or is it harder because you've got to kind of make it feel fuller?
Yes, that's. Do you know what? You have to try and blend in at a wedding. Yeah, it's an awful lot harder because when there's only 25 people, and especially in the reception afterwards, where you're trying to mingle, and you're standing there with 2 cameras hanging off you and 2 lenses, and you're just like, don't even look at me, I'm not here. So it's definitely harder. And if Ronan was here now, he'd speak highly of this, but from my experience, my limited experience, you feed off the crowd of a wedding the same as you do off a gig, off the crowd at a gig, you know, like the buzz of the crowd, their reactions, they're really part of the wedding itself. So yeah, it's definitely harder, 100%. 100%. Kev, have you a quick fire round
we
ready?
have a quick fire round here, Zach. This is normally quick. Now, sometimes Sean likes to jump in and interrupt, and that's absolutely acceptable as well.
Yeah.
Can I quickly get another beer? I think
Go grab a beer.
Absolutely.
Right, so the quick fire round.
Yeah.
Are you ready, Zach?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go for it.
Okay, quick fire round question number 1. What camera accessory can you not leave home without?
SD card reader.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had that one yet, I don't think either.
Legit.
Essential.
Yeah.
If you were to use one lens for the rest of your life, what would it be?
50mm prime.
Ooh, what about
Nice.
the wide-angle shots if you're on tour with Ed again? What
Nah,
do
it
you do
doesn't
then?
matter. The prime is. Yeah, I'll just do it with the prime. It would look a lot less people.
Class.
Shoot a panel. A 2-second panel.
Oh, look
No,
at
you
that.
wouldn't be able to do that, Kev.
You
No.
wouldn't.
No. No, I was joking.
The next question is ridiculous, and I don't know why it's still in there, but we'll leave it there anyway. RAW or JPEG?
Raw, obviously.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I've also started playing with uncompressed RAW as well. And I don't think you could do it with live, but and I know they say that like you can't. It shouldn't matter. But some of that passenger stuff was shot in uncompressed RAW, and I think you get more depth.
Really?
Yeah, I really like it.
Because I was only delving into the settings there of my Z6 the other day, and it shoots to 14-bit compressed or 14-bit uncompressed, and I was kind of thinking, geez, I wonder what the difference is. I know the file size will be larger, but that's interesting, especially in landscapes. You want every single bit of image depth or
if I was doing landscapes, I would definitely shoot uncompressed. I mean,
interesting.
It might be just my opinion. There's no science behind it because they do say that it's.
And was it when you were obviously post-processing the files, you noticed that more depth, like more image data, basically?
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
I mean, it definitely slows up the computer, but
yeah, you want a beast of a computer to be shooting uncompressed. It's like shooting raw video, you know, crazy file sizes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, nice one.
Your favorite camera brand, Zach?
Oh, it's got to be Sony.
Yeah.
No
one has ever said any other brand than what they're currently shooting with. So, yeah, makes sense.
That'd be a mistake. One, they're amazing. The mirrorless, and their sense capabilities are insane, and also they're starting to be quite good to me and lend me stuff. So I can't.
Good. You deserve it, Zach. You deserve it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
You.
Yeah.
You've worked hard for it, buddy. You definitely deserve that.
Yeah, I went to school with the right person.
Yeah, but no.
You make your own luck.
I'm joking.
You then mastered the art.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely make your own luck.
Yeah.
No one's going to, obviously it gave me the opportunity to do it, but you have to take the opportunity and do something with it rather than just like taking something from someone.
You could have absolutely messed it up. Like, you could have been terrible, and then you would have been like, thanks, buddy, I'll just use these photos instead. No, you grabbed it with both hands, and you just ran with it, and so yeah, you definitely deserve it. You definitely made your own luck with that one.
I say that a lot, like, because I tend to get lucky when I'm out shooting sometimes, and people are always like, you're always seem to be in the right place, right time, perfect condition. I'm like, yeah, but like, I still had to get in a car and drive 3 hours. I had to stand on a cliff for 2 hours waiting for the light. Do you know what I mean? Like, you make your own luck in this life, and you have to take every opportunity, and you have to put in the effort. And if you do put in the effort, you will get the rewards. Like, so.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I'm creating my own brand, is because I'm just like, I want to be able to go skiing, and I want my family to be able to go skiing. My mum was a single mum, and like she scraped together all the money in the world to take us skiing when we were 14 years old because all our friends were going. And I remember that moment of just like, oh, this is amazing. And I want my kids to have that experience. And so no one's going to give you fucking wealth and success. I think you have to. You can get helped up from time to time, but I think you need to take it, and try and roll with it and take everything you can and learn from it. Yeah.
And it must have been even more special, the fact that you saw how hard your mum must have worked to get that money to be able to take you skiing. Do you know what I mean? And to give you that opportunity, like, you know, that's that's so true. You get nothing for nothing in this life, and anyone who tells you you're lucky.
I mean, I know that's saying, you know, some people can't, you know, skiing is a luxury. So I don't want to sound like an absolute wanker that my mum saved up all the money to go take us skiing, but that was kind of what happened.
Not at all, man. That's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Favorite camera brand, Sony. Okay, Kev, we've one more.
Favorite camera brand was Sony. Zach, clarity, yes or no?
Some people overuse it. There's a time and a place for it. And I think if you go any further than sort of like 10, then I think you're taking the piss. Okay. There's definitely some images that like warrant it, and so sometimes I shoot through. I've got some like glass filters that are like kaleidoscopes and stuff, and they're actually quite funny. They look like knuckle dusters, and I once got pulled up at an airport because they were like, "Oh, you've got knuckle dusters." But,
no way.
They're not. They're just like they have like little candles, and they've got glass filters. And sometimes if you're shooting through them, like one of them is like, I think probably like half an inch thick. It's quite thick. And if you're shooting through that, adding a bit of clarity just helps boost that image and boost the sharpness like no end. But I think if you're shooting, there's definitely a few people that I see that I'm just like, one, you've got your saturation turned way too far up, and two, what you're doing with that clarity, it starts to look like unreal. Like you should use it to help you and to enhance your image, not like change what you shot. I think some people get it wrong, and they do it to change what they shot rather than enhance it.
That's a good point. Or they try and use it to compensate for something that's missing in the image. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, but definitely you could look through my Instagram feed, and there'd probably be definitely earlier on, I was like, oh, clarity, that's sick.
Yeah, jack it up.
Woo, full.
Lucy Foster described a photo that with too much clarity is like a photo on steroids. It was such a good description. I know, it was brilliant. But yeah, people, while we're on sorry, here I go again now, quick fire round. But
you're good.
do you use Photoshop for much, Zach, or is it predominantly Lightroom?
I used to use Photoshop a lot more because I came from that design background. It's sort of the software that I knew and loved, but you know now and then I transferred over to Lightroom. You know the just Adobe Lightroom, and now I'm full Adobe Lightroom Classic.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And then I very occasionally, if I need to remove something with content aware, or if I need to polish something slightly, I'll go into Photoshop. But I think that's probably like, I don't know, one in every million photos. I don't really use Photoshop at all anymore for that.
Very rare.
I think you can do so much stuff in Lightroom now, and especially with like masks. If you do want to like brighten up a face, or like there's something slightly underexposed that you want to bring out, just using a little kind of like mask on there, I think is better and cleaner than the Photoshop. However, what I would say is I did do one of my print store prints is layered on Photoshop with some starbursts. So for layering, I do use Photoshop. Yeah. If
That's
I want
the one
to
thing.
double expose a photo or something like that.
Yeah, I noticed that you have one or two in your feed, and that's what I was gonna ask about. But yeah, like Lightroom it's catching up on Photoshop definitely with its like masking and luminance features. But Photoshop, like Lightroom doesn't have layering systems or anything like so. No. Yeah.
But have you seen it was on my Fujifilm X100F, where I started layering, you can actually double expose on those. So you can take an image, and then you can take another image that layers on top of it onto the same
class.
That's in camera.
Yeah, on the camera. It's really cool.
That is very cool.
But, I mean, Photoshop's a lot easier.
Yeah. True.
Zach, you know, I don't Photoshop. I've never learned how to use Photoshop at all. It's.
So you like Lightroom through and through then?
Yeah. A few other kind of apps and stuff, but I need to learn Photoshop. Ronan's actually going to give me a crash course, and we're going to record it and release it as content for the podcast. Everyone's a winner.
There's exclusive.
I've started shooting a bit more with film as well recently, just because I think it's just in lockdown boredom. I got my film camera back out, and yeah, and I really wanted to like convert my spare room into a dark room.
Dark
but
room.
my girlfriend said
No
no.
way.
Come on. But there's this guy called Nathan Scott who does all my film developing, and he's literally, I mean, he's just moved, but he used to live around the corner, and he had like a home lab, and like the images that he used to produce are like so sick.
Oh man,
But
film is
moved
actually so
North
cool.
London now.
Film is like, it's like purest photography. Do you know?
Yeah, because I did it at college. I did like an art and design foundation, and I did like a whole thing on photography, and it was all based around. I think you could choose actually if it was film, if you did film or digital. And I did film, and I remember being like just absolutely loving being in the dark room, just like creating, actually doing it properly. And
Yeah.
even though I didn't really use that in my career up until now, I think I definitely like when I'm on Lightroom, I look back and like, oh yeah, this makes sense doing it this way. Like, obviously, like
Yeah.
I think you kind of remember it. It's ingrained in me because it's such a process and it's such like a intense atmosphere. No, not intense atmosphere. That's the wrong word, but like it's just like you're in the room and you're like developing
Pure
and
creative
kind of-
process, like.
Yeah, and getting
And-
changing up the ratios of the chemicals and stuff, and just like
Yeah.
seeing what you can come up with.
Do you think people should shoot film before they shoot digital? Is there any advantages?
I don't
you
think
know-
there's any advantages, but it's definitely like
Gives you appreciation.
And also, the way I shoot film is very different to the way I shoot digital.
Yeah.
So at the moment I've got like, so I sometimes take my OM1, but I've also got like a Contax T2 point and shoot, which is a lot of my having that in your like pocket while you're shooting live is really cool. Just because it's like it's so easy, you don't have to think about it, and the image that produces, that Contax, is so insane. Like, yeah, so good. But I shoot it very differently, and I choose, sometimes, especially like if when I started with Capaldi, like I sprayed hard.
Yeah.
Like I was so nervous about missing that I'd have
really?
like everything cranked up to like, shoot insane frames and just like, and then as soon as you start getting used to the show, then you like completely calm down. You're like, oh, I don't need to spray that.
Because I'd imagine a Lewis gig is a bit kind of slower paced than an Ed gig, because Ed goes hard. You know what I mean? If you're looking at the likes of You Need Me, I Don't Need You, there's loads of them that like Ed goes for it. Like, don't. You know what I mean? Like he's.
But I think also like
bursting.
I think if you'd gone to see Ed when the Plus album, was released, and Lewis with his first debut album, like I think they feel quite similar. I think once you start gigging to like large amounts of people and theatres, and obviously Lewis did arenas on this first run, which is like absolutely insane.
It is insane, isn't it? Like, it's mad.
Like I think the way you play, then that's why Ed then went from Plus to Multiply, and you've got all those songs that are much more upbeat to playing live. And like, I mean, I haven't heard of any of Lewis's next record, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes inspiration from playing stuff out live and higher tempos, and maybe goes down that.
The
route.
Lewis thing is mad, because he, like, I remember hearing what was the first big single again? I've got Before You Go
Someone You
stuck in
Love.
my head. Someone You Loved, on the
yeah.
radio,
Yeah.
and he was playing a gig in a place called the Helix in Dublin. Now, the Helix is a very small venue, and Nina Nesbitt was supporting him. Like, this was kind of back when this had just launched, and then it went from the Helix to the Olympia to Malahide, like in less than a year. Like, that's
Crazy.
mad. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane.
Yeah. It's
the Helix
crazy.
is a tiny venue, and like that just that's testament to just how bloody awesome he
How
is. in
good he
fairness.
is, yeah.
But yeah, like that's that's mad.
And also, I think the testament to him is he's actually like he's a nice guy to work for, but I think he's a nice guy in general, and I think that comes across. Like, no one likes the fucking idiot. I mean, that's why that whole Noel Gallagher thing, Lewis versus Noel thing, was so funny, because Noel was that kind of like old school, grumpy, obnoxious bloke, and then Lewis was just sort of this like picking fun at the fact that you don't have to be like that in the industry anymore. You can just have fun with it. I think that's the main thing. Lewis has like the most amount of fun ever.
That's it. Like, he definitely comes across as just one of like the genuinely nicest people in the world. Like he has fun. He's loving life, and why wouldn't he be? You know, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Zach,
I'm very lucky to work for the people I've worked for, because I haven't come across anyone that is not absolutely lovely and really great to work for. So,
and you know what? They're lucky to have you as well, buddy, because you're
that's it, man.
Equally as class.
Your work
Zach,
is insane.
We're gonna let you plug the absolute bejesus out of your print store now, because
a shameless plug. Brilliant.
Absolutely, go for it.
You can
There's
go
no
as
judgment
hard
here.
as you want.
Yeah.
You plug whatever you need to. This is a safe space where we hand it over to you, and you can just say whatever you need to say and sell whatever you need to sell to anyone listening. Go for it.
Cool. Well, I've basically been wanting to do it for a little while, and then the kind of stars aligned, and because I basically got lots of messages asking for this print store, and then but I didn't want to just do it my own pocket, so I kind of partnered with We Need Crew. And I don't know if you guys have heard of We Need Crew, but it's like a support platform like set up for people that work in the music industry, especially the touring industry.
Yep.
And anyone that's their livelihood is now kaput, and they're really struggling, can apply for like grants through them, and they're like a really amazing thing. And obviously Navaran did his Royal Albert Hall gig with in sponsorship with We Need Crew, and I just wanted to if I was going to do a print store, even though my work's completely dried up this year, I was meant to be gone with Lewis from March when we got locked down to October when I was meant to come back. But not only that, I wanted to I'm not the only one in this position. There's countless and countless and countless people. So I've partnered with We Need Crew to do a set of limited edition prints, and they currently are of Ed Sheeran and Capaldi and Passenger. There's a couple more maybe in the pipeline of other artists I've worked with, but at the moment it's it's the very male singer-songwriter dominated print store. So if you kind of like that, then you should go there. But 25% of all proceeds are all going to We Need Crew. And I've got all the prints are getting delivered to me for the first round of printing tomorrow, and they're all getting posted tomorrow morning. So if anyone has ordered one already, then they're on your way to you. But check it out. I'm sure you can link my website to this podcast.
Absolutely.
We will, of course.
But great for support, and it's also just nice to see some work that I've done in other people's houses. I've got a few prints up. I've got as many prints as I'm allowed to have in the house. So I think I've got 4, and 2 of them are really neutral live photos of crowds with hands in the air rather than artists. There is a Capaldi print on my bookshelf, and there is also an Ed print somewhere, but it's not allowed in the main rooms. It has to be in the spare rooms.
I've a picture that I've taken of Dermot Kennedy in my sitting room.
Oh, nice.
Proud of that one, of course.
Yeah.
I'll tell my girlfriend about that.
Yeah, do. Just don't tell her about you wanting to leave for 2021. The whole year.
It's definitely not going to be the whole year. But as soon as I'm allowed to leave, I'm gone.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Take me with you, Zach.
Brilliant.
Take me with you. Put me in your bag.
Oh. This is
I wonder if I'll get to a point where I need a camera assistant.
Look, I would be there to change your SD cards. Whatever. Just whatever.
I think you might say something else, changing something else then.
I'll do that too, whatever is needed. I say that, the thoughts of a tour, I think, maybe to me is more appealing than actually, I'd love to experience a tour. It is a dream. But I do have a kid. So I think I definitely, it's not going to be oh, you want me to go on tour? Yeah, I'm gone. It would be an actual decision. It's not just I can. But
also a lot of people no one. Well, Ed does the crazy. There's a few artists that do these crazy 3-year campaigns, but
true.
The UK one I did with Lewis was 3 weeks, and the European one was 3 weeks, and then we're all home. There's I don't want to take you away from your kid, but there's definitely...
take me. I'm sorry. I'm all
yeah, he's no, it's okay.
I'm there.
He'll be back again.
Exactly.
They're not always as long and silly as Ed's.
That's very true. Zach, look, I think we've kind of hit it all there, really, buddy. That was an absolute pleasure.
Sweet.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
It's been so long in the making, and absolutely worth the wait.
100%.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for one last time, Mr. Zakary Walters. Thank you, Zach. You are a hero.
Nice one. Thanks, Zach.
Sweet.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, boys.
So yeah, Zach, you can also people can find you on Instagram as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we didn't even plug any other
Yeah.
stuff.
Your
Plug
socials.
me on Instagram at Zakary Walters, and Zakary-Walters.com is my website. So
Nice.
And that'll link to your sales, your print store.
yeah, they go straight to the store. So
Deadly.
Phenomenal.
yeah,
Deadly.
Zach,
you
thanks
are
very
a
much.
legend. It's been
Sweet.
emotional
Cheers, boys.
and beautiful.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you. There you have it, folks. Another episode of The Tripod.
If you did enjoy the podcast, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes.
And you can always subscribe to the podcast. And if you want to listen to more episodes, head over to www.tripod.ie, where you can find us on our socials, which include Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Okay,
and
Ronan, that's
you
enough.
can,
Yeah,
be on Snapchat
that's
and
enough, Ronan.
TikTok. And okay, thanks.